In 1980, there were 5.5 million social rent homes in England. Since then, 2 million have been sold through Right to Buy. But new builds haven't kept up with that, leaving a gap. It's this that's put more pressure on waiting lists, and campaigners say these Tory plans could lead to children and families becoming homeless.
Why would that ever keep the Tories up at night? They love when children are going homeless. They love when children are hungry. They want to see as many people struggle in this lifetime as possible, or make them believe that it will be a pleasure that they are able to work 2 jobs at the same time just so that they can make ends meet.
I'm as real can get. What you see?
Buongiorno freaks and geeks, welcome back to the channel. Once the nasty party, always the nasty party. The horse shagging Tories unveiled their new policy, evicting foreign nationals from social housing.
Don't worry everybody, all your travel, work, bill paying problems will be over once we evict these foreign nationals from social housing.
You can't even respect the honesty of it. At what point do we decide these conservative people are not compatible with living within a society and need to be banished? Anyway, Sky News did a very quick breakdown of the proposed bloodthirsty, knuckle-dragging, flag-molesting policy. I'm going to press play on that video now, but before I do, please hit the buttons for like, subscribe, and tell me down below, when will migrants stop being the boogeyman for all political inconsistencies?
The Tories have said they'd ban foreign nationals from social housing to free up space for British families. So would it make much difference?
The answer is a big fat no. This is the politics of just being heartless. We've seen it time and time again. And what people don't realize is what happens if they get rid of all of the foreign nationals out of council housing. Will that fix everything, or will they just move the target to another marginalized group? What if they instead refocus to British people that have a foreign parent? Anyone from the EU or one of the many Muslim countries that they obviously hate. And then what next? Black people descendants of the Windrush generation, women that they don't think are worthy, gay people, and when it comes to trans people, they have never been off the target list. So I would plead with you, think very carefully why this policy exists in the first place. It's because the Tory party, especially the Tory party, have no intentions of challenging the real villains responsible for why things are hard in this country: the rich, the capitalists, the ones with all the power.
This is the total number of social rented homes in England, 4.1 million. So each house there represents about 50,000 homes in real life. This is how many would be evicted under their new plans, about 230,000 households. So as you can see, an overwhelming majority of social housing is occupied by British nationals already.
Yeah, that's quite obvious. Like, anyone with half a brain could have worked that out. To get a social house, it is extremely difficult. But more than that, how bad of a situation do you think these foreign nationals are coming from that they are being put up in social housing? It doesn't take a genius. It doesn't take an Elon Musk to work that out.
And there are 1.3 million households waiting, 6 times the number who'd be evicted.
There is a real problem with the difficulty getting access to social housing if you're a British family.
But not for the reason you think.
So we're saying if you're a foreign national, you're an adult here, you're in this country, choosing to live in this country, you should be contributing and you should be paying your own way, including for your children.
And that already happens. The vast majority of foreign nationals put way more in than they take out of this system. But that shouldn't even matter. I don't really care if you come here and contribute or not. You're a human being at the end of the day. You didn't choose to be here in the first place. They're just trying to get to a place or a country where you can enjoy life as much as possible. Not that there is much to enjoy living in the UK right now anymore. So again, what are the Tory party actually doing apart from just quenching some type of bloodlust? This policy may seem fantastic if you're a backwards racist, but as Sky freaking News is showing you right now, there are more people on the waiting list who are British citizens, if you really care about that, than the number of foreign nationals occupying social housing. And the Tories are so transparent with it, they didn't even try to pretend that they would build more houses. It starts and ends with evicting foreign nationals. That's it.
But when it comes to the cause of housing pressures, history matters here too. In 1980, there were 5.5 million social rent homes in England. Since then, 2 million have been sold through right to buy. But new builds haven't kept up with that, leaving a gap. It's this that's put more pressure on waiting lists, and campaigners say these Tory plans could lead to children and families becoming homeless.
Why would that ever keep the Tories up at night? They love when children are going homeless. They love when children are hungry. They want to see as many people struggle in this lifetime as possible, or make them believe that it will be a pleasure that they are able to work 2 jobs at the same time just so that they can make ends meet, while their donors, while their friends, while the people who run the massive companies get to continue to live in this lap of luxury off the backs of the poorest and the most vulnerable. This is absolutely disgusting. And just the way we've been conditioned to go along with all of this just blows my mind. I was looking at some of the prices of petrol and diesel in years gone by, and I cannot believe that drivers have just sat back and watched as the prices go up and up and up. No, the cost of every single war wasn't stuck with the shareholders of these big, massive petrol and oil companies. It was passed to the consumer so that these rich capitalists were able to continue buying more and more private resources and get another yacht, presumably. I'm still oblivious to the route that got us to this point. We had a global crash in 2008, and somehow it is the poorest and the most vulnerable still paying for that incident till this day. We are still seeing austerity. We are still seeing a cut in services. We are still seeing people being made redundant, while the richest on the planet are just accumulating more and more and more. This saying is very true. Money doesn't grow on trees, and it doesn't. It is taken from one class and given to another. And the Tories and Reform and Labour to an extent are trying to distract you from where that money is going to.
We don't know the numbers, but what we do know is at the moment we have a spiralling homelessness problem. We have a spiralling number of children facing homelessness in temporary accommodation, and we have a spiralling social housing waiting list. This doesn't address any of that.
As good and succinct as Alicia Walker put it, they don't plan to address anything else. They just want to be seen as targeting the other, the alien, if you will, and presenting it to their base audience as a massive win. This was never about addressing the core issue. It's just being seen to be doing something. Like when you work in an office 9 to 5 and you complete all your work in the first 2 hours, you just have to be seen tapping on your keyboard until 5 o'clock so your manager doesn't get on your back.
Now, the government says access to social housing is already tightly controlled, and this plan risks pushing up costs and harming communities. But with Reform touting a similar plan and Labour also focusing on migration this summer, this could be more about political signalling than making practical changes.
Yeah, I think the Tory and Reform plan are almost identical, apart from the fact that the Tories may embed a longer time period for one of the elements, but I don't know. I don't choose to read the policies of fascists in detail. And when it comes to Labour, despite getting the King of the North as Prime Minister now, they are still obsessed with going down this path of controlling migration, as if migration isn't already tightly controlled, as if the ruling class haven't told the sitting government that, calm down, we need these poor people coming from these developing countries into this country, so we can blame them when we lower our wages and pay it to them, because we know that citizens born in this country wouldn't go for those wages because they have a higher cost of living. And I just find it really interesting that Sky News, and I don't know whether they're still owned by Rupert Murdoch, but Sky News is challenging the Tory narrative about a policy which they probably would have done when they were in power if they got the chance. They had so many other things to worry about. But this is something that is essentially the bread and butter of any Tory party. But Sky News is calling that out. It might be a step in the right direction, or this is one of those days where Sky News is acting out of character. Anyway, to qualify for social housing as a foreign national, you need indefinite leave to remain, 5 years of lawful residency, working, paying tax, passing culture and language tests. These aren't people arriving on little rubber dinghies and getting keys to a council flat where poor English people were freshly evicted for no reason. Tories are openly admitting, do everything we ask, follow every single rule on this little island, jump through every single hoop, and you will still lose your home. Social tenants pay rent. The money goes back to the public purse, and that's more money than Amazon and Meta pay combined. These are people who've lived here in many cases for decades. Pensioners, families with children born and raised here, NHS workers. But more than all of that, they are just human beings trying to get by like every other creature on this spinning rock. There are 1.3 million households on the social housing waiting list. So even if you evicted every single one of those foreign national households, you would still have over 1 million British families waiting. Did they just let Boris Johnson back in the room to do the maths? This is an act of cruelty for the sake of being cruel. The Tories and Reform will clash over who's tougher on foreign nationals. It'll be treated as a poker game. Who will go all in on bringing shotguns to the evictions? This isn't a mistake. This is a 45-year group project to shrink the state's role in housing and push people into the private rented sector. And now, when the consequences are impossible to ignore, record homelessness, 175,000 children in temporary accommodation, rough sleeping nearly tripled since 2010. Instead of looking at the system, they say,
Look over there. That person is brown.
Despite what capitalism tells you, a government cannot evict their way out of a housing shortage. You cannot deport your way out of a supply crisis. The problem was never who lives in social housing. The problem is there are not enough homes. Everything else is political warfare with innocent human collateral. But that's what I think. What do you think? Please tell me down below. I would love to read it. If you stayed with me up to this point, thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. If you enjoy audiobooks, I voice one on spotting red flags early in relationships. Link in the description below. And remember, once we understand politics, we will make better choices. Don't forget to hit the buttons for like, subscribe, and I will see you very, very soon. Ciao.
There you go, acting like a hoe. There you go, acting like a hoe. There you go.